Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's edition of High Heels to Happy Feels. I'm Stephanie,
And I'm Natalie.
and this week we ditch performance for presence and make clarity more magnetic than compliance. So, we're going to talk a little bit about a pattern that we've seen and naming that pattern, and because it's culturally it's praised, right? And it's truly energetically exhausting, and that's being nice. Saying
Mhm.
yes when our soul says no, keeping your peace when your boundaries are just breaking apart. And let's be honest, nice is not soul led. That has nothing to do with it. It's trained, it's tolerated, and sometimes it's just a response to trauma that we dress up as spiritual maturity. So, where does politeness come from? Think about it. If you've ever bit your tongue, think when you wanted to really speak and you're just, oh, I'm going to bite my tongue. You smiled through a meeting or a relationship that was exhausting you and draining you, or you said yes to a really awkward conversation. You've been caught up in that politeness loop. And it's a pattern. It's suppress, perform, resent, repeat. And we're here to talk about that and break that cycle. Most of us were taught this really early in our lives. And if you are a caregiver, if you work in a corporate environment, a hierarchical environment of some sort, even in your friendships and relationships, where being nice has been rewarded with that approval and safety and your comfort zone, we're here to talk about that, right? And dig into it because your soul isn't here to be smooth, it's here to be sovereign.
And
And
I think you make some really good points just off the top about we really are trained as from our society, from our cultural beliefs, from all of the things that we grow up. That's the parenting advice you get. Everything you get leads you to this being nice. And okay, so being nice, we say it may not be soul led. It may be soul led. It's really going to depend on the situation. But there's things that can happen when you are gonna start to be honest. And some of those things, like you're gonna disappoint people
hmm
who used to expect your silence. And you might feel guilty about this, even when you feel more aligned. So there's a lot of things you really have to work through here because you get to regain the energy that you didn't even realize that you were letting out of you because you're not holding that space for always being nice, always being the emotional, intelligent person in the room. And I love emotional intelligence. I think everybody should strive to be emotionally intelligent, but there is a difference between being nice and being emotionally intelligent. Because soul led, truly, it's not always the soft, it's the direct, it's the discerning, it's clear. And you don't need to yell, you just need to stop shrinking in your own space. So I know that we're going to have moments that matter. We can tie that into this week, into the energy. And Steph and I were on with our foundations team earlier today, and we were talking a little bit about astrology. And we like to bring astrology into our podcasts because it's something that we love. So, we love astrology, we love spells, we love magic. So we're going to continue to try to bring those in. So, Steph, if you could highlight some of the stuff for what's going on in the stars.
Oh, absolutely. And you're right. And because this is part of it. It's part of the energy that you feel, and it's a really good opportunity to own that, right? So, if we're talking about what the energy is in those skies right now, there is a lot. There's a lot to say. And we are, as we're recording this, it's May 31st. It's the end of the month, and right now Jupiter is it's pretty cozy. We're in Gemini, and that means we've got a lot of stuff buzzing in the air around us. You've got big ideas, but you scatter. And it's really easy to go in those rabbit holes. Your brain will it's like drinking espresso all day long, right? You start skipping like a record. You're just, but you're not by yourself. And the vibe right now is to say yes to everything. And that because that's part of that whole Jupiter and Gemini, you've got all these grand ideas and you're scattered, but that's exactly what's going to trip you up. And you also have to remember Mercury's in Gemini right now. So the words, they're just going to flow. And so it's easy to talk fast. at the same time, which I'm apparently, I do that naturally anyway, but I'm probably doing it even
Yeah,
more
tell us
so,
that.
right? Right? So, but you might be speaking and not saying what you mean. And so you're just talking to fill space and just talking to, um, just to answer and to be a part of that conversation. You might even be just nodding your head like, yep, sure, that's great. And inside of you is screaming, no. And that's part of this transit too. So we've still got Pluto in retrograde, and or Pluto is retrograde in Aquarius at the moment. And that is going to be our wrecking ball for that mask we put on socially. So burning down the rules that we feel that we need to stay safe and being the agreeable one, being the peacekeeper. Stop it. It's time to stop that. Don't be the one that adjusts all the time. I mean,
Mhm.
this is part of that when we get into let me, let them. It's all let me, let them deal with that stuff. For you, you need to honor you and you need to be looking at that because, excuse me, you've got to speak clear to keep your own power. And Pluto is really screaming at you about being an intention. Mercury is saying, hey, even though Mercury's speed and so many of those things, but it's saying to keep it real. So as you're talking through and you're energized and you're doing all these different things, you got to slow your speech down and you got to be intentional with that. Um, yeah, so if the theme right now feels like I'm done pretending, the stars say it's about damn time because you're right on time. You got to burn it down, babe. Burn it.
So that is so much energy, and it makes so much sense because Jupiter is all about the expansion of everything, like you said. And in Gemini, where we're thinking, like our minds are just a mess, and it just makes sense
Oh my gosh, yeah.
when I hear you say it. I'm like, yep, yep, that's exactly what I've been experiencing. And these are the things that are real to us. So, and playing from a place of niceness all of the time really is damaging to the way you want to lead your life in a soul-led way.
So
All
true.
right.
It's so
Yeah.
true. And it's just crazy. And as we look at the astrology, even for the month ahead, and we'll continue to give those little reflections as we go into the following weeks. But there is so much different energy going on right now, and it just is so easy to scatter your thoughts and to be agreeable just so that you don't have confrontation or so that you don't rock the boat. Rock it. Stand
Yeah.
up, shake the hell out of it. And if you fall in the water, you're going to get a little wet, but you're going to be doing it on your terms. So do it.
And it's like, of course, this is the week we're having this because when you put the astrology around, because we kind of plan out what we're going to talk about in our podcast, we don't do much else with them. But then when we bring the astrology in, I'm always surprised because like all of those things are really matching with the energy, and it's a really great time to stop being the people pleaser, to stand up in your space. Um, and that's what we're talking about. So of
Yeah,
course the
of course
astrology
it
is going to
is.
match.
Right? Right. And so I want you to follow that up because we're going to talk, we do a little bit of the magic and some of those things too, but I want you to talk about that spirit moment. Because I think there's a whole
Oh
spiritual,
yeah.
feeling around this too. And just kind of what is that moment? What should it feel like for us?
Well, so all right, so there's an example. Do you ever walk away from a conversation and it feels haunting to you?
Oh my God. Yeah.
So, and this isn't haunting like spirits coming in to talk to you or anything, but you replay the moment in your mind
Hmm.
and you feel pressure in your chest. You said the wrong thing. You wish you would have said something. You wish you would have said anything. Like you could have lost your voice in that moment. Lots of that. That's not your imagination. That's actually a spirit moment. And it's not always from beyond. Often this stuff is from within, our higher selves, because the ghost of a truth is what you've just swallowed. And that's
Yes.
that's what's causing that pressure in your chest. So when you're not being yourself, when you're wearing these masks, when you're not being soul led, or anytime you're kind of tripping over yourself to be that people pleaser, you are swallowing your own truth and you are creating those ghosts that are going to come back and haunt you because that's the self that you have silenced, and you've done it to either stay agreeable or any type of things that Stephanie just mentioned. And these aren't really there to haunt you, but they're to remind you that your energy wants its voice back. So
Yes.
Something is still echoing from a moment where you said yes, but you meant no. Or you didn't say anything and you meant to have an opinion and you wanted them to know your opinion. You are allowed to revisit those conversations and you are allowed to say those things now because you can't live with those ghosts inside you. You have got to let them out. Let be you.
Yes.
I think the most important thing.
Totally agree. And I just, and here it comes, everybody. You ready? Shadow work. Because if you think, God forbid, I
Course,
not get it in at least
of
once
course.
during every podcast. But your shadow work sometimes is when you're delving into those conversations and what Natalie was just talking about, which is just it haunts you and something that you just, and to the other person that was involved in the conversation. I mean, it's out of sight, out of mind. They don't care. It's gone. It's a done moment. No one thinks about it. I think about something somebody told me 35 years ago that
Yep.
still resonates with me right now that I just once in a while want to call and say, no, silver is just as cool as gold. I mean, it's a dumb
Ah,
conversation and it's incredibly weird. And it's just like, but the statement at that time was, and this is giving age, but it was like, oh, well, I was wearing a bunch of sterling and I do all of it now, right? That's just me. If I want to wear brass and copper and silver and gold all at the same time, I do because I love it. But I was wearing some sterling and she's like, oh, well, as you get older, you'll appreciate gold more and you'll wear gold more.
and that gave gold a lot of power, and it did take your power away because
It
then it makes you feel like my opinion no longer matters. Apparently,
Right.
this is supposed to be more. That's that learned stuff. You're
And she
absolutely
grew
right.
up around high-end jewelry and gold and these types of things. And I'm like, and it just kind of hit me. And it's amazing. It still resonates. And we're still very good friends. And it's just one of those that I'm like, huh. And but I think about that once in a while when I'm putting on jewelry and I realize I'm wearing silver and gold and all that. And I'm like, hey, this is kind of a kiss my ass moment. Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm in my 50s. I'm pretty grown up. I'm as done as I'm going to get there. So, yeah, it is about it's never too late to have the conversation or to get it out, right? Whether that's a little bit of shadow work to just say, I let it go.
Yeah, and you're bringing up a really good point. So I'm gonna
Give us some,
yeah, the magic in the moment because
yes.
we talked about spirit. So let's drag in that magic moment that I was talking about because magic is not always a ritual. It's not always something that you light a candle or you sit in silence or you call your quarters or it's not always that. Sometimes it's just that clear sentence. It can be in an email. It can be spoken out loud or the text that you don't send because you're going to hold yourself in a situation where you are going to put your emotional maturity, you're not going to share that opinion, you're not going to keep that wound open, whatever that says that it no longer works for me. Whether you have to say it out loud because when you do those things, those are spells and it's a spell of self-respect.
I love it.
It realigns your energy in real time because magic is a choice. And once you are probably already doing because you're making these decisions every day, what you swallow. But when you tell the truth, that is pure magic.
Oh my God. So true. And so can I just throw in here because I've got a couple of prompts, right? So
Yeah.
some ways to think about this and some really easy things to, okay, easy is a relative term, right? Because everything that involves self-reflection, if you're being really
Oh, it's
candid
so
about
tough.
it, is not always easy. That's just the way it is. But this is an awesome, think of it as a politeness detox,
Ooh, I like it already.
right? And it doesn't mean that you get to go slam doors in people's face, and it doesn't mean you get to be a
Dang
total
it.
bitch, but you do absolutely have to have your space. And so ask yourself, where am I saying yes? Just to manage someone else's comfort, just to make them feel better, you know?
Ooh, yeah.
And that's a hard one, especially with family, because there's a lot of, and in our relationships, because there's a lot of times that we will tell people yes when we are screaming no way. And we'll do that.
I
And
especially like the nodding thing you brought up earlier because
yes,
conversations around family, you're zoning out, you're thinking about something else and you're just nodding because you know they're your family. You practically know their minds, so you kind of know what they're saying. And at the end, you're like, oh my gosh, what
What
did
did
I
I agree to?
do?
Right? That's not how I vote.
And
That's
our
not what
family knows
I'm
that,
not
so they kind
buying
of use
that,
it.
you know?
That's how they use it to their advantage because they're like, she's not going to listen to this, so I'm going to get her to give
Right.
me her car. You know?
Right. Right. And it's just one of the, and when it comes to the bigger things, it's always easy
Right.
to be like, wait, 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 wait. No, I'm not agreeing to
Right.
that. But there are a lot of times where you find yourself in that situation of just, this conversation has gone on way too long, and I really don't want to fight this battle. I mean, it's even that where you've said no maybe once, but now you just don't want to fight the battle, so you cave.
Yep.
And why are you doing that? Is it for them or is it for you? Because if it's for somebody else and it's not for you, and I get in that second, it might be for peace of mind because you really want this conversation to end. But you have to ask yourself, how are you going to think about it 5 minutes from now? How am I going to think about it 10 minutes from now? Because if the answer is still not, I'm going to feel good, then stick with no.
Well, and it's such a live your truth. Like,
Yes.
don't give up. Put those 10 toes, stand on business. Like, be who you're going to be and be that
Mhm.
person right there. Don't let the time slide by because then you do have those awkward conversations, but do have them if you need them.
Right. It's better to have that awkward conversation now. It's one of those things, it's like lying. When you and that's what it is. It's a form of lying because you're lying. And so when you tell a lie, then you have to remember the lie you told. And then if you told a different lie to somebody else, you have to remember what you told them. Why not just speak the truth to begin with and not worry about it? And it goes on to kind of that next prompt I'm thinking about, which is, are you afraid it's going to make you sound difficult?
Oh, I like that one too.
Right? And if just being honest makes you difficult, now put it in this way, right? There's women in great positions of power, not as many as there should be, but there are some fantastic women leaders. And you think about the more power or the more money you have as a female, the bigger bitch you are.
Oh, yep.
And so if you're a man, it's a totally different title, right? He's strong, he's fierce, he's
Master of his domain.
blah blah blah. And I'm not taking anything away from
No,
from
no, no.
good men in power. But what I'm saying is it becomes a title. And some titles you want to wear with a badge of honor. And if it makes me difficult because I'm being honest with myself, then difficult I shall be.
That's a good one. Yep, yep.
Yep. And then one more, while I'm thinking about it, is does the how do I clear the static from this? Right. So, what's that one conversation that I can have with whomever this person is that's going to clear away the static around it so that the no doesn't sound harsh, or so that there is terms where maybe we're coming to an agreement on something?
Right. So, like in your gold example, to get that squirrel out of your head, to clear
Uh-huh.
that static from ever having to think about it again, going to that person and being like, you know what? I love wearing all of these different metals together because it's empowering. Isn't it empowering for you?
Well, the thing is, they think we're at a place now that the next time I see her, I'll be like, "Do you remember saying this?"
I'm sure not.
And she'll crack up and be like, "Oh my God, that sounds so much like some crap I would say." And I'd be like, "Yeah, it really stuck with me. What do you think of all the silver and gold?" She'll just crack up. I know she will.
Well, and you don't
And
even have
she'll
to
probably
recall
be like,
that.
"I'm so sorry I said that." And then she's going to be like, "And why on earth did you remember it?" You know?
Right. But that's what I'm saying is you don't even have to recall the conversation. You just have to restate your opinion about that now. I mean,
Yeah,
hopefully you guys are having these conversations faster than 35 years ago.
right.
But if a squirrel's really running around your mind with an old conversation, you might want to clear that static for
Right.
sure.
There's some times where it's called for cord cutting, and that's just releasing an entire thing altogether. But it's sometimes when it's just, okay, I don't know why this is still with me all these years later. Maybe I should just mention it. And you're right, and I probably will. I'll wait till there's maybe a couple of beers involved and then make some jokes about it. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
it's the whole purpose of with these prompts, you are, and this is journaling, of course, but even thinking about those prompts as you're having a conversation. It's a good time to remind yourself, because you can be kind, you just don't have to be nice, right? In that kind of way. So there's kindness and then there's being run over and being stepped on like a rug. And there is a difference. And that difference will change everything for you. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so this podcast is more about like we're giving you a permission slip
Yes.
because if you have been stuck in that professional nice girl mode or nice guy mode or the spiritual politeness conditioning that we all experience from our society and everything that comes around that, here's your permission slip to say you don't have to choose between being intuitive, being soul-led, to be direct. So there is no choice there. You are allowed to be exactly who you are because there's no choice between being compassionate and being clear. Those can happen at the same time. They are not mutually exclusive. And you do not have to shrink to stay safe. You just have to choose yourself one honest moment at a time. And we're certainly not calling you liars, but you're lying to yourself and you're swallowing that ghost of a truth when you're not speaking for your best interest, when you're not challenging those who are telling you how it's going to be.
It's,
And if you
it's,
want some help, oh, I'm sorry, Steph.
I was just saying that's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want some help clearing all of this mental noise and reclaiming that energy, of course, we've got a free tool for that. It's called the Mind Reclamation Kit, and that's at Immersive Spirit Living because this really isn't about becoming someone new. It's about finding yourself, your power, and being who you always have been, but with your voice back. All right, Steph, anything else you want to say? I was gonna close us out, but I figured I better give you a moment.
No, I think that's beautifully stated. I think that's great. And yeah, check it out. Make sure you're checking out those soul pillars. They're amazing free tools. And yeah, you
Yeah,
nailed
it's
it.
gonna be good. And we're gonna have our 21-day journey that we're gonna invite external folks, so not just for our members. We're gonna do that on June 21st, but we'll get into that later. All right.
Yeah. Summer solstice coming soon.
Right. Okay, so this has been High Heels to Happy Feels, and next week we are going to slow it way down with a practice most people resist, and that's the stretch before the shift, and that's holding tension without rushing to resolution. So we will see you next Saturday. Bye from Natalie.
Bye from Stephanie.
See ya.